So it's time to leave the waking world behind and enter the nightmare realm of Fatal Frame 3 yet again.
If I see you, I don't know, am I supposed to be alive? I have to see him. I have to find him and be sure. I...
So as we enter the second to last hour, we find ourselves back in control of Rei, as she is the only character up to this point that is not trapped in an eternal nightmare. But as to what she is going to do to save her friends is a bit up in the air. But before we get to that, we do have a few optional things to cover beforehand. First thing we're going to do is head all the way back to that second floor corridor where we found the peek hole before. You can already tell that our camera is reacting to something, and that there's some distant sobbing. Inside the enclosed room here, we find the final three handmaidens. Amane is no longer with them, as she has been crucified down in the abyss. But as to what they are doing in there is a little bit of a mystery for right now, but we will be solving that as we now have a means to get into that room that they're in. It's just going to require a little bit of backtracking, which we thankfully won't have to see, as it is pretty far out of the way. Now, you might recall in a much earlier chapter, I think we got a key and a power lens up in this attic area here. But we also did uncover a weird panel back here in the corner. And if we investigate it on this night, we now find that, for some reason or another, we can now, open up the panel. So let's go ahead and make our way down in there. Now we find ourselves down in the enclosed room where we can take a quick vanishing ghost picture of two of the handmaidens. And now have to deal with a third handmaiden flying around and being a general nuisance. This room is not really set up for combat, and if it wasn't due to the emulator bug, this fight would be kind of difficult. But it does allow me to show off something special that I didn't know you could do in the game, which was switch films without having to go into the pause menu. Just requires pressing left and right on the D-pad, and you can switch to whatever film you have. And we got rid of that ghost pretty quickly with the use of some Type 61 film, and for our efforts we do get a red diary. Paints a pretty bleak picture of what ended up happening with the Shrine Maidens. It seems that one by one they had to impale each other until only one was left, and obviously she couldn't impale herself, so she was left alone in the empty manor, enclosed in this room where she could sleep forever and ever. paints a very, very grim picture for what might have been the final days or weeks for that poor young girl. I mean, granted, some of them are pretty sociopathic and sadistic, but this is still a pretty horrible way to go out. But with that little sidetrack out of the way, we do have, well, I think one more optional thing to do. And it's not too terribly far away, but I'm still going to make a jump cut as we would have to go super slow outside. But if we head back to the blind room where we fought Miss Takagawa, we will find a new hidden ghost waiting. Yeah, amongst the lump in that blanket there, we find the head of the Kuze family shrine. I think the woman's name is actually Yashu Kuze. With that out of the way, we can now safely head on to our main objective, which might not be initially clear once you head into this mission. But if we head back to where all the other two characters inevitably ended up, in the engraving shrine, we will see that something's a bit amiss. Yeah, it seems that the Mirror of Loss is no longer here, which means that our pathway through the reeds is currently blocked. But Ray does bring up the fact that maybe we can listen for the maiden's thoughts, and they will guide us to where we need to go. Yeah, you may have noticed near the beginning of the Manor of Sleep that we might have been hearing a weird voice echoing through the halls. And that is going to be our indication as to where we need to go to pick up these different fragments for the Mirror of Loss. And the good news is the first one is pretty close by, which is very good considering our candle is almost extinguished.
I never wanted to leave you. I wanted to be with you. I'm here. I'll always be here.
Yeah, those ghostly words echoing from the past from Reika. But here we find the first fragment. Now, you don't necessarily have to get these in any particular order. You can get them however is most convenient, but I will be getting them in sequential order, just for shits and giggles. Let's go ahead and rush to get that candle because I got a bad feeling. And by bad feeling, I mean, yeah, the tattooed lady is very close by. And we learn a very important rule here, which is that even if you pick up the candle, and even if you dissipate the miasma, that doesn't make the tattooed lady go away. Instead, she will continue following you and chasing after you until you somehow manage to lose her, which in this corridor is particularly difficult. Yeah, you might remember that Kay had a similar issue here, but he was able to hide away from the tattooed lady. As such, we don't really have the benefit of that. And as such, I am going to have to pull off a little trick that I didn't think would work, honestly. But with that expert juking, we can now head on to the second fragment. Now, you might already be noticing there are a number of subtitles popping up here and there, and sometimes Reika's words will kind of carry through walls and things like that, but we can't let it distract us from where we need to go. And where we need to go is, well, with all these locations, is going to be directly related to Reika in some way or another. This next one is going to be in a location that I don't think Ray has been to yet.
Once more. I want to see you again. I know I can't see you again, but still, if I could just see you once more. Once more. Just one more time.
Yeah, that hanging prison where Reiko was forced to listen to the subduing song, I assume before she was tattooed. And here, amongst that single solitary blanket, we do find the second fragment of the Mirror of Loss. And along with that, we do find a power lens, even though it is one we have already gotten before as K. Don't really need to explain it again, it's still as useless as it was before, so we probably won't be seeing it put to use anytime soon. And before you go rushing off to that third mirror fragment, there is an easily missed hidden ghost waiting up here. If we go along this side of the cage and focus through the hole in the cage here, we can take a hidden ghost picture. And this time it's of Reika trapped in the cage. But with that out of the way, we can now skip on forward to fragment number 3, somewhat close by.
I will shatter my memories, these shards, these pieces of me.
Yeah, in this tucked away sleeping quarters here. Not for certain if this was meant to be Reika's sleeping area before she was caged up, or maybe for one of the visiting men that would later be murdered. I will say, though, that this mirror fragment can be a bit difficult just due to the fact of the movement in the game. There we go. Now we can head on down to the fourth fragment, which is going to be over in the wooden altar room, or hanging body room.
I feel like you've been in my dreams for so long, over and over. But I don't want this dream anymore.
Yeah, for some reason or another, all the figures that were hanging from the ceiling have been cut down. And that does allow us to get another hidden ghost picture on one of the bodies. And the description on this hidden ghost is, apparently it was, I think, a man that had fallen in love with an engraver and was murdered for his love. Apparently, though, that annoyed an engraver. And yet again, not a terribly difficult fight, especially with our upgraded camera and damage output. But it is interesting to, well, I guess, put together the pieces here, especially with the bloodletting that went on between those two wooden figures. More than likely, all these hanging bodies were bodies that were either bled out for the ink for the tattooing, or, well, they were supposed to be used for future bloodletting. Either way, though, I think we should go ahead and pick up this mirror fragment so we can stop this repeating dialogue. That means we just have one more mirror fragment to pick up. We'll go ahead and fill up on our candle. And we'll head over to the final fragment and also take in a few movies.
Please don't forget me. This is my voice, my memory, my pain. I can feel the thoughts of so many people being etched into me. So many voices, so much pain. Please don't forget me. This is my voice, my memory, my pain.
I honestly do love how that little scene was set up. And all the shadowy figures playing behind as Reika talked about how all these tormented memories are forever ingrained into her. In addition, we can pick up the film in case we want to view it later. But more importantly, we did pick up a piece of film in our attic, so we'll go ahead and watch that really quickly. There isn't too much to it initially, but we do get to see Kaname, I assume as he was being interviewed and recorded by Mr. Aso. But before we pick up that final mirror shard, I want to go ahead and fill up on a little bit more Type 14 film.
This is my voice, my memory, my pain.
And we get the final mirror shard, which now means we have the completed Mirror of Loss again. And in addition to that, somehow or another, we do manage to find another diary entry from Reika. Now, there isn't too much importance to put behind this, but it does bring up a somewhat important feature of the Mirror of Loss, in that, well, even though she was the bearer of all these tormented feelings of other people, there still needed to be some outlet for her own personal holly, her own personal pain, and that's what she put into the mirror. In the end, though, even though she gave all those emotions away, she still wanted to see Kaname one more time.
I want to see you.
And the game is kind enough to teleport us directly where we need to go.
It's my fault. It's all my fault.
The question is, what was Reika's fault? We do a quick vanishing ghost to take care of in here. It's a bit hard to see what it is initially.
Let this priestess never awaken from her dreams for all eternity.
But it's just the Kuze family head for a 5th time, I think, at this point. I think all characters at this point have had a chance to fight this incredibly easy ghost. And since we have enough Type 61 film, I figure it might speed up this fight just a little bit, especially considering the fact that Yasho never really gets any new abilities. She just always has a very large health pool and very small windows of opportunity to do real damage. Though it also doesn't help when I mess up on the comboing. Also, I will still try, at least in a bonus video, whenever I'm showing off battle mode, to show off her special attack animation. We are running a little bit low on time here. We still have that candle time limit to deal with. But we'll go ahead and pop the mirror back in place, which will unlock our progression forward. And as per usual, I'm going to go ahead and refill back on our candle. Still kind of a shame, though, that this particular hour has a lot of similarities to the previous hour with Kay. We had to backtrack pretty much all over the manor, going in locations we've already been to many times over, without any new real enemies or story to speak of. Still, it's not the worst thing ever, and you guys didn't have to deal with a bulk of the backtracking, so that's always good. Also, while I have a bit of time, I might as well go ahead and point out the pretty nice outfit that Ray is wearing. The dress is unlocked by beating the game on normal, beating the game on hard or normal 3 times. You do have a choice. And the cat ears she's wearing are requiring of the similar criteria, which is beating hard or beating the game 3 times on normal. But with that, we just need to head into the last passage here one final time. I suppose we need to head back down into the abyss one last time. But the game warns you here that there is no turning back. So I think that is a good place to call it an update. Hopefully you will join me next time as we head into the final hour of Fatal Frame 3.